What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. So I recently picked up Capcom Fighting Collection 2 for the Nintendo Switch, and while this entire collection features 8 games from Capcom's fighting back catalog, I primarily picked up this game for 2 reasons: Power Stone 1 and Power Stone 2. I have some pretty fond memories of these Dreamcast era arena fighters, and getting the opportunity to play these arcade ports on the go has scratched a decades-long itch I've had to return to these games. However, to my surprise, the majority of my time spent playing this collection has not been with Power Stone. Instead, I've spent most of my time digging into this obscure 3D fighter that's tucked away on this collection called Plasma Sword: Nightmare of Bilstein. I had never heard about this game before finding it on this collection, and exploring it has been extremely fun. It's this odd 90s sci-fi inspired fighting game with these over-the-top characters that pack a ton of charm in a world that's equally weird and engrossing. Plasma Sword takes place hundreds of years in the future on this planet called Zeta, and the main villain is Dr. Bilstein. He's this maniacal terrorist that's hell-bent on destroying the galaxy. And this game is a direct sequel to an earlier Capcom 3D fighter called Star Gladiator. In fact, the game is actually called Star Gladiator 2 in Japan. And in that first game, Hayato and the hero characters believe they killed Dr. Bilstein, but now he's rumored to be back on Zeta, wreaking havoc. And as you complete the arcade mode with various characters, you'll peel back the layers on how each character is connected to Dr. Bilstein and their pursuits to either stop him or help him. Midway through arcade mode, you face off against a mini-boss character, giving you a few lines of story dialogue, with the rest of the story coming at the final boss fight at the end. The futuristic setting lays the groundwork for some really cool character designs and sci-fi effects that gives the game a certain charm that can really draw you in. All the weapons are these futuristic plasma weapons, swords that glow with the flare of a Star Wars lightsaber, full robot characters that shoot guns at enemies, and tons of other oddities that are just dripping with sci-fi inspired goodness. So why am I so captivated by this game? Well, I think first and foremost, this sci-fi setting really helps make Plasma Sword feel like something special. To my knowledge, we just don't get a lot of these fighting games in sci-fi settings. As cool as you think Jedi fighters with lightsabers fighting droids with guns would be, we just don't get a lot of fighting games that use this sort of futuristic space-themed sci-fi as its backdrop. And it's something that gives Plasma Sword a uniquely late 90s retro vibe that I think any fans of sci-fi and fighting games can really appreciate and enjoy. The characters lean into sci-fi weirdness so hard that it's actually comical at times. So like there's this character Gore, who's this like dog-looking thing with a fully exposed brain, and there are these 2 full robot characters with guns they can shoot. And then there's Saturn, who is, just look at this guy. For fighting games, I think it's important to have characters that are unique, kind of over the top, and fun to engage with. Outside of the general setting and the over the top character design, the special effects in this game are really cool in general. All the plasma sword and plasma field attacks are so flashy and fun to pull off, and it keeps me coming back for more battles. Additionally, these moves are not too difficult to pull off. They're not these long strain of commands. Once you've learned a character's basic specials, all the plasma-based attacks are really the same button combinations, so it makes things easy to get into, and it's simple to jump in and play the game through with multiple characters. The combat in Plasma Sword is smooth and responsive, centering around multiple special plasma abilities you can leverage offensively and defensively that consume your plasma meter that you build up throughout the fight. Every character has a few plasma specials you can use by pressing a direction and ZL on the Switch controller. For defense, you can do a counter move if you time it right and do a plasma revenge, which negates your opponent's attack and gives them a little backstab. These are both really satisfying to pull off, but the real star of the show, in my opinion, is the plasma field. Basically, what you try to do is to trap your opponent inside a plasma field where for a short period of time, you have special abilities and combos and your opponent has no access to their plasma abilities. This is again where Plasma Sword stands out with its sci-fi theme, because when you successfully pull this off, you literally trap your opponent in another dimension and the whole color and backdrop of the stage changes. It is so trippy and so flashy and just awesome to pull off every time. Your opponent can block the plasma field and still block and do basic attacks once they're trapped inside of it, so you still have to be kind of careful with how you use it, but some of the things you can pull off in here are truly spectacular and a real highlight of the game for me so far. So this experience with Plasma Sword has also really made me reflect a bit on fighting games and the genre as a whole. I haven't really been a huge fan of fighting games over the past 15 years or so. I can't remember exactly when I stopped gravitating to these games, but I just remember feeling less excited to play them. Especially in recent years, it has really started to feel like the genre as a whole is pretty inaccessible to those of us who just want to play casually. But it wasn't always like this. I remember fondly when I was a kid just goofing around with my brother playing Tekken 3 on the PlayStation 1, or playing hours of Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter or Smash Brothers, right? Somewhere along the way, fighting games became so dominated by the competitive online scene that those of us who just wanted to play casually felt like the game was just out of reach for us. There was this pressure to compete, and if you didn't have the hours to pour into becoming a competitive ranked player, then why even bother? But honestly, I felt none of that while playing Plasma Sword, and the more I have these experiences with games, it just reinforces in general that these games are so much more fun when you just take your time, have fun at your own pace, and create your own experiences. Don't concern yourself with whatever the meta strategy is for these games or which characters or combos are the most broken. I've been having fun with this one, just going through arcade mode with all the characters, enjoying the wacky storylines, and slowly improving as I learn more of the game mechanics. And I feel like that's how it used to be. And it took this obscure, nearly 30-year-old fighting game to remind me just how fun this genre can be. I was also reflecting on what can cause a game like this to get overlooked during its time. Why is this a game I've never heard of compared to the more popular 3D fighters of that time period? And when I look at reviews on this game that were written when it came out, it looks like this game was just overshadowed by games that were more technically impressive at the time. So this game hit home consoles in April of 2000 on a Dreamcast. This was actually very poor timing because there were very impressive arcade ports of popular 3D fighters that year, with Soul Calibur hitting the Dreamcast a few months before this game released, and Tekken Tag Tournament hitting the PlayStation 2 just a few months after this game was released. But this is exactly why I think it's important to revisit these old games, even if they didn't have the best critical reception or the best sales numbers. This little cult gem of a fighting game was tucked away in the early 2000s, overshadowed by the more popular and technically impressive 3D fighters of the day, but looking back on it with fresh eyes, it's possible to evaluate the game on its own merits and see what makes it unique. I often think about what games in overcrowded genres right now may get looked at fondly years from now when the dust settles. Maybe it's, roguelikes or, extraction shooters. Something that's currently not able to compete with the genre titans, but, given enough years, you might look back and think, that game had something special. Anyway, that's enough rambling from me. I'm loving Plasma Sword, and I'm actively looking for other interesting fighting games to try, so I'd love to hear your recommendations if you've got any. Leave them in the comments below, especially any retro fighting games. What's your experience with Plasma Sword? Have you ever heard of this game? Did you discover it on the Capcom Fighting Collection like I did? Or were you playing this one back in the Dreamcast into year 2000? Or were you one of the few that were playing it in the arcades in 1998? Let me know in the comments below. And if you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, all of the typical YouTube stuff. And I'll see you in the next one.